Good afternoon and welcome to Spectrum Television News at 12. I am Uyai MM, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Let's take a look at the headlines. Federal government launches National Digital Trust Mark for online companies. Senate gives executive 2 weeks to present budget performance report. Plus, Venezuela opposition leader Mercado wins Nobel Peace Prize. We'll bring you the details of these stories and more in a moment. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. We begin this afternoon from the national scene where the federal government has launched National Digital Trust Mark for online companies in collaboration with key government institutions like the Corporate Affairs Commission (CAC), the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN), and the Nigerian Communications Commission (NCC). The trust mark would curb online frauds, identity theft, scamming and forgery, and ensure trust, competitiveness, integrity, and confidence in Nigeria online and digital business platforms. The Director General of the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, Kashifu Inuwa, announced this in Abuja at a news conference, saying that the National Digital Trust Mark has become imperative considering the concerns globally over online and e-commerce business activities with Nigerians and in Nigeria. Inuwa said it was saddening for Nigerians to be classified as scammers and fraudsters, especially in relation to how online businesses are conducted, stating that there were times citizens would make payments for goods online only to be blocked thereafter, or cases where whatever citizens purchased online were not delivered according to specifications. He said the National Digital Trust Mark is being facilitated by the German International Cooperation Agency and the National Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industries, Mines and Agriculture, NACIMA, to care of challenges in the sector. From the Red Chambers, the Senate has issued a 2-week ultimatum to the executive to submit a comprehensive documented progress report on the implementation of the 2024 budget as projections for the 2025 budget. It will entertain the medium-term expenditure framework. Chairman of the Senate Committee on Finance, Sani Musa, gave the declaration during a meeting with President Bola Tinubu's economic team, led by Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, of the National Assembly. Senator Musa noted that the legislature requires detailed performance data to properly assess the assumptions and projections in the proposed MTEF and fiscal strategy paper. On electoral matters, the Chief Technical Advisor to the Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Bolade Enyinla, has said that the statistics of Nigerians who turn out to vote have continued to be on the decline, saying an election in which less than 50% of registered voters come out is tainted by a shadow of legitimacy. Speaking at the Yaga Africa 2027 election scenarios and election manipulation risk in Red Retreat in Abuja, Professor Enyinla said that available data shows the voter turnout in the presidential elections since 2011 are as follows: 2011, 53.7%, 2015, 43.6%, 34.7%, and 2023, 26.7%. According to him, any talk of reviewing the process of appointing the chairman, national and resident electoral commissioners, of INEC, by removing the power of appointment from the president under the prevailing circumstances is not feasible before the 2027 elections in view of the tedious process of altering any of the provisions in the Constitution. That after a review of the 2023 general election, 142 recommendations were made for improving the electoral process, adding that the Commission has taken necessary steps to implement some of the recommendations arising from the review that requires administrative action. In a separate development, the Minister of Women Affairs, Dr. Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, has called for a collective action to protect the girl child from harm and abuse to enable her to achieve her dreams. She noted that every girl deserves the chance to dream, grow and lead. The minister urged young Nigerians to become advocates of mentorship and progressive leadership. She stressed the need for a multi-sectoral approach to addressing issues about rape and gender-based violence. Elsewhere, former Minister of Power and Steel Wole Oyesele has appealed to President Bola Tinubu to ensure the full and practical execution of the Supreme Court's judgment on local government autonomy. He said implementation of the judgment is the only way the renewed agenda can be genuinely felt by Nigerians at the grassroots. Speaking as a veteran local government administrator and respected elder statesman, Oyelese described local government autonomy as the lifeblood of rural development and the surest way to restore citizens' confidence in governance. According to him, the July 2024 Supreme Court judgment that ordered direct disbursement of allocations from the Federation account to the 774 local government councils and prohibited the use of caretaker committees was a long-awaited victory for the people. He noted that most projects attributed to the local governments are executed by contractors unfamiliar with the communities, creating capital flight and denying local artisans and youth the economic benefits that should accompany development. In another development, former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has called for a fundamental restructuring of Nigeria's legal and judicial philosophy, especially the tendency of courts prioritizing technicalities over substantive justice. Osinbajo, a professor of law, spoke in Ilorin at the second Professor Yusuf Ali's annual lecture organized by the Kwara State University KWASU, Malete. The former vice president said the essence of any justice system is to serve the people, not to glorify procedural formalities. He expressed concern that many judicial decisions, including those of the Supreme Court, often leaned towards form rather than substance. Osinbajo posited that Nigeria's continued attachment to outdated technicalities undermined justice and eroded public trust in the judiciary. Away from that, the Nigerian Customs Service has announced the date for the final computer-based examination for all successful Superintendent's cadre applicants. The service, in a statement released on its X account today, said the exercise is slated for Tuesday, 14th of October 2025. According to Customs, the exercise will be conducted across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. It added that the examination will be conducted concurrently in the following zones: Southwest, Lagos and Osun; Southeast, Enugu and Abia; South-South, Rivers and Edo; North Central, Abuja and Kwara; Northeast, Bauchi and Adamawa; and Northwest, Kaduna and Sokoto. We move now to Africa, where thousands have gathered in the northern Cameroonian city of Maroua to show support for opposition candidate Issa Tachoroma Bakare just days before the country's presidential election. despite 92-year-old President Paul Biya's desire to extend his 43-year rule with an eighth term. Bakari said he is confident he can pull off an offset. Cameroon, a Central African nation of nearly 30 million people, continues to struggle with deep-rooted corruption and a deadly sectionist conflict in its western regions. Biya's re-election bid comes amid widespread concerns about election credibility, with authorities often accused of favoring the ruling party. Still in Africa, for the 13th consecutive day, protesters have filled the streets of Morocco's capital, demanding sweeping reforms in jobs, housing, healthcare and education. The Generation Z-led movement, which began in late September, has rapidly spread to major cities including Casablanca. The protesters said their calls for justice and dignity are beginning to resonate as government has acknowledged their demands and promised to take them into account. The demonstrators are also denouncing widespread corruption and criticizing the government for prioritizing international sporting events over essential public services. And on the foreign scene, the Norwegian Nobel Committee says the Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to Venezuela's opposition leader and democracy activist Maria Corina Machado. The chairman of the Norwegian Nobel Committee in Oslo, Jørgen Freitas, said Machado was honored today for her tireless work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela and for her struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy. Recall that U.S. President Donald Trump had led a public campaign to win the award, but nominations closed in January at the start of his second term in office. Still on the foreign scene, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office says Israel has approved the first phase of a Gaza deal, which will lead to a ceasefire and the release of hostages. Under the agreement, Israel's military will partially withdraw from Gaza in 24 hours, while Hamas will leave 72 hours to release all Israeli hostages, and Israel will release hundreds of Palestinian detainees. Reports say once the deal is operating, 8 trucks will surge in to help Gaza's 2 million people, most of whom have been displaced. Still to come in the news. Super Eagles to face Crocodiles of Lesotho today in 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. Stay tuned for details of this and more in a moment.
Broadening your horizon is what every living being not only genuinely desires, but heartily pursues and intentionally invests in. For in the gathering of men, only those whose minds are in tune with the dynamics of the past, present, and future innovations, inventions, politics, and governance are respected. We are Spectrum Television, and broadening your horizon is our obsession. Risk on your decoder now to connect Spectrum Television on the frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. That is frequency 12589, symbol rate 26250. Polarization horizontal, and join our online community at spectrumtvlive.ng. For further inquiries, please call 0704 158 5642 or 0704 541 7707. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned in now to the rest of the news stories. On our business news, the federal government and the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, have reaffirmed their commitment to addressing bottlenecks in Nigeria's export sector, fixing the Export Expansion Grant EEG scheme, and promoting non-oil trade as a key driver of the country's economic growth and development. Speaking at the annual general meeting and public discourse of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria Export Promotion Group held in Lagos, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Jumoke Oduwole, said that government was determined to resolve the long-standing challenges affecting exporters, particularly those related to the EEG scheme. Oduwole, represented by the Assistant Chief Commercial Officer in the Federal Trade Ministry, Hajara Usman, said the ministry was fully aware of the difficulties confronting exporters and is working with the private sector to find lasting solutions. She added that the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is strengthening inter-agency coordination to eliminate duplications, and reduce bureaucratic bottlenecks. On our health news, the Federal Capital Territory Administration (FCTA) has announced plans to establish an infectious disease hospital, revitalize the FCT molecular laboratory, and advocate for a minimum 15% budgetary allocation to health in line with the Abuja Declaration. The FCTA pledged to implement the primary health care under one roof policy, create budget lines for core health programs, and pass the FCT Health Insurance and Private Health Establishment Registration and Monitoring Agency bills. The move forms part of resolutions reached during the two-day 2025 Health Sector Joint Annual Review and Performance Dialogue held in Abuja, where stakeholders assessed progress and charted new strategies to strengthen the FCT health system in line with the National Health Sector Renewal Investment Initiative. A communique jointly signed by the Acting Director General, Hospital Management Board, Dr. Amadou Abubakar, and the Acting Director, Public Health Department, Dr. Dan Gatzama, stated that the review include improved maternal and child health indicators, expanded immunization coverage, reduced HIV incidence, strengthened malaria response, and increased health insurance enrollment. Now to sports news. Victor Osimhen and Ademola Lookman will spearhead Nigeria's quest for 3 crucial points when the Super Eagles face Lesotho in a must-win 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier at the new Peter Mokaba Stadium in Morokwena, South Africa this evening. The encounter is the penultimate game of the qualifying series, with Nigeria needing victory and favorable results elsewhere to stay in contention ahead of their final fixture against group leaders Benin Republic at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium in Uyo. Meanwhile, head coach Eric Hill will be without wing-back Ola Aina, who was injured during the last outing against South Africa. Bright Osai Samuel, Raphael Nyedika and Cyril Dessers are also sidelined through injury. However, Chile is boosted by the return of Victor Osimhen, who missed the South Africa tie after picking up an injury against Rwanda in Uyo. Goalkeeper Stanley Nwabali is expected to retain his place between the sticks, with William Trustekong, Calvin Bassey, Bruno Yemachi, Semi Ajayi, Zaidu Sanusi and Benjamin Frederick all competing for spots in defense. Still in sports, Eugene Agagbe has been appointed head coach of the Nigeria Premier Football League (NPFL) under-19 team. Agagbe's appointment was announced by Beru FC. Recall that Agagbe recently joined Beru FC technical crew. The 2-week NPFL under-19 camping program has already been opened in Abeokuta, Ogun State. The camping exercise will run from Saturday the 4th of October through Friday the 17th of October. Now to our entertainment news. Afrobeat singer Tiwa Savage has said that Nigerians and the country's music industry do not give her enough accolades for her significant contributions. Savage is one of the most awarded female artists in Africa and is regarded by many as the queen of Afrobeats. But the Malokuna said she deserves more accolades than she is currently getting. And these are all the stories we're able to bring to you at this time. Do well to follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. This has been Spectrum Television News at 12. I am Uyai MM. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.